Hi, I'm Ariana. Nice to meet you all.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. And Blake, you and I both went to Michigan. I don't think at the same time.
Whoa, go blue. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, what attracted you guys to this project to begin with? And were you guys nervous of coming into such a strong fan base, even though this was technically a new series, but there's been a pilot that's existed for years?
I'm lucky that I'm a pretty ignorant person in general. And so I had no idea what I was coming into. They were like, it's a YouTube pilot. And I was like, okay, great. So probably that means nothing. So I just recorded it and I had fun. And they're like, oh, by the way, this has a massive rabid fan base. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, after auditioning for it, I pretty much did a deep dive on all things Hazbin Hotel and Hell of the Boss, and I mean, the way in which I could have never anticipated the rabbit hole I would fall down in the and keep falling, and I'm still falling through. There's such a surfeit of information and of theories and just content, because also Viv's been so transparent and so communicative with the fans throughout her process of creating the show. I mean, like being able to go back and see renderings of Angel Dust or any of the characters that in their like the genesis of the characters is wild to me. So that was a huge thing for me. I mean, just being able to, I love in any context, I love reading like fantasy books that have like so much information that you have to learn about the world and understand. And so there being such a massive amount of content to learn about Hazbin was huge for me. I just loved writing through it.
Yes.
Did you say surfeit?
Surf it. Yeah.
That's
I,
such an interesting word. I've never heard that before.
Oh yeah, no,
It
it's
sounds like
like
smart.
I think it's Sureit. I might be switching the
Now
I
you
and the
seem
E,
less
but
smart.
yeah, okay. So good. We're back to ground
Thank you.
zero.
I just had to bring you down to my level.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you for it. Keep me humble.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like Nifty is a little bit more under the radar, especially in the pilot. I think throughout the season, you get little breadcrumbs of her and you don't really know where they lead. And you just sort of like see what's around the corner. You're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And then you look around this corner, you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And she's just like the gift that keeps on giving. And I'm really excited to see what her story is, you know? She's so intriguing to me. And so I don't like to put myself under any pressure ever. So yeah, I didn't feel like pressure to live up to anything. I was just like, let's have fun with this. And everyone's so supportive and knows what they want. So yeah, it was just a good time.
Yeah, it was funny. Like when I was watching the first five,
EIT.
Oh, thank
Yeah, okay, so I got it right.
when I was watching the first five episodes, I'm like, is Nifty just here for like easy access to bad boys? Because I'm trying to figure out like everyone's motivation to
Yeah.
be there. But speaking of everyone's motivation to be there, Angel Dust out of you three is the actual only guest. Alastor seems to have this fatherly bond with Charlie, but he also might be there for nefarious reasons because he literally is still in charge of Husk. Why do you think your characters are at the hotel, and do you think any of them could actually be rehabilitated?
I think Angel can for sure.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know if Alistair can, because I think that we need to know more about Alistair's good side, and at least in the first few episodes, there's no indication of a good side. His motivation for being there is to have a front row seat to Charlie's fuck ups. And the more of a father figure he is, the more her fuck up will be more spectacular. So there's no point in sabotaging her because she's going to fail anyway. So it's more about helping her and watching her fall even further.
Mm.
Do you think Angel Dust and Nifty can be rehabilitated, and do you think they want to?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say given the
Mm.
little we know about her. she seems like, I don't know. I want to say she has it in her. Like, I think she just like she has certain coping mechanisms, like manically cleaning, etc., stabbing things, killing bugs, etc. But I think that it all leads somewhere deeper and darker, as it all does. It does for all of us, you know, childhood trauma, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of the most interesting things about the series is when you look at any of these characters, and especially like Niffty, where you know you're just laughing because and you love the way that they are and they exist in the world, but then you start asking yourself the question of why they exist that way, you know, and it's the same thing with Angel Dust too. There is most definitely a front that he puts up, and it makes you question what is underneath that, why that front seems, why it's so hard for him to trust, why it seems so necessary to put up that persona. But in terms of redemption, I mean, I think everybody has a chance at redemption. Even Alastor, who we don't know too much about, but I think is exactly what he wants, right? And you know, the one reason why people withhold so much information is because the more you know about them, the more you realize that they're just human beings, you know, or in our case, demons. But you know, and everybody has a chance at redemption.
For sure. And Poison is like the saddest, most tragic bop ever. Like I'm dancing, I'm like, oh wow, this is sad, but a great song to
Yeah, yeah.
How do you guys, how is it different to prepare for voice roles instead of, let's say, being on stage and being on television? Kimiko and Amir, you guys have done this for quite some time, and Blake, you're a bit new to this. How is that approach different than performing in front of people?
Well, I mean, for me as a woman, I don't have to care as much about my physical appearance, which is like such a breath of fresh air. You know, that's such a thing in this industry, and to not have to even let it cross my mind and let it all just be like what's energetically inside of me, and you know what I've been, I guess, trained to do as a theatrical performer. It's super, it's like one of my favorite things to do. It's all play, you know. It's no bullshit, all play.
Yeah, I mean, I think preparing for voice work, well, I mean, you know, the obvious thing, you don't have to memorize anything because it's right in front of you. But it you don't have to settle on a choice quite as quickly as you do with on-camera work. You know, TV sets, and to a lesser extent movie sets, they work so quickly that you need to be ready to bring it immediately, right? Because there's so many other moving parts. When you get in the booth, you have a little more time, and between takes, there's not a whole lot of setup. You don't have to reset the lights and the background and all that stuff. And so you can really, like that improv game, New Choice, you can just sort of jump back and forth and do this, and then do that, and do that. And you can do 4 in a row really, really quickly. And so what that allows you to do is not have to like prepare as much. You can really just sort of like let shit fly in the moment. And it's really fun.
Keep the momentum.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, you know, much of my experience has been in theater and on stage, and one of the first things, this being the first voiceover gig that I've really gotten, the first thing I noticed being in the studio is how directly tied the performing aspect, like the performance that you give in theater, is to the performance that you give when you're in the studio behind the mic. You know, you have one mode of information, sensory information, that you can give to the audience, and that is your voice. And if you want all of the work that you're doing on the character and the intentions that you're setting and the objectives that you're trying to achieve to translate and to be communicated through to your character, you have to, no one's going to ever see it, but when you're recording those lines, you're going to have to physicalize that character as much as possible. And so I felt right at home when I got into the studio and I realized that. I'm like, oh, okay, I can be just as theatrical with this because it's necessary. It's very necessary. Yeah.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. I can't wait to talk to you about this and future projects.
All right. Thank you so much.
What?